Did you get that bio stuff? I couldn't understand a word the professor was saying.
Yeah, I got it. What didn't you get?
We were talking about cellular respiration, which I know is using glucose to make ATP, but then there were all these stages. I got lost at the first one.
Oh, you mean glycolysis? Well, you begin with the 6-carbon sugar, glucose, in the cytosol, and then 2 ATP are used to split the glucose into 2 3-carbon glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates. This is called the energy investment phase, because 2 ATP are given up.
Oh, I'm starting to remember this now. But I thought ATP got made during glycolysis?
That is during the next phase, the energy payoff phase, in which the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates are converted to pyruvate in a number of steps. A total of 4 ATP are produced during this phase, which more than makes up for the 2 that were used during the energy investment phase. In addition, 2 N-D molecules are converted to 2 N-D-H molecules.
Well, I understand that we want to make ATP, but what about the N-A-D-H? What's that for? And what happens to the pyruvate?
Well, the N-A-D-H is taken to electron transport, which occurs in the membrane of the mitochondria, and the pyruvates are transported to the Krebs cycle, which occurs in the matrix of the mitochondria.
Are all of the pyruvates and N-A-D-H molecules taken to electron transport in the Krebs cycle?
No. If there's no oxygen, they undergo fermentation.
So, basically, 1 glucose is turned into 2 pyruvates, and during that transformation, 2 net ATP are produced and 2 N-A-D-H are produced?
Basically, yes.
What were you saying earlier about fermentation? That confused me too.
Well, fermentation is basically the equivalent of cellular respiration when there's no oxygen available.
Why wouldn't here be any oxygen?
Well, there was no oxygen in Earth's original atmosphere, so the virus cells needed a way to harvest chemical energy with no oxygen. Also, prokaryotes did not have membrane-bound organelles, so they had to harvest chemical energy without mitochondria, which is why fermentation occurs in the cytosol.
Right. I remember now. Weren't there a couple different types of fermentation?
There are actually many different types of fermentation, but the 2 most common types are alcohol and lactic acid fermentation.
Okay, what's alcohol fermentation?
Alcohol fermentation is when the 2 pyruvates produced during glycolysis are first changed to acetaldehyde, and then ethanol by a series of chemical reactions. During this series of reactions, carbon dioxide is released, and 2 ATP are produced by substrate-level phosphorylation.
Isn't ethanol drinking alcohol?
Yeah, ethanol is drinking alcohol. Stuff like beer and wine is produced by alcohol fermentation. In fact, the bubbles in beer is the carbon dioxide that's being released during fermentation.
Cool, I'll remember that. What's lactic acid fermentation?
Lactic acid fermentation is when the pyruvates produced are changed to lactate in a series of reactions. 2 ATP are produced during lactic acid fermentation, and no carbon dioxide is produced.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any examples of lactic acid fermentation? Because that will help me understand it better.
Yeah. Whenever I go running, my muscles are sore the next day. That's because during exercise, muscle cells undergo lactic acid fermentation, and a buildup of lactate causes the pH of muscles to drop, stimulating nerve endings and causing the muscles to become sore.
Thank you. I understand glycolysis and fermentation so much more now.
You're welcome. I'm happy I could help.